we had to do lesson 10 and the homework set. So he walked you through this problem right here. So the area, you're basically finding the area of a rectangle, and today's focus is taking a whole number and multiplying it by a mixed number of 2.5. So you have a whole number of 3 units, and you're going to be multiplying it by 2.5 to get the area in your square units. So he walked you through the area model, but I just want to show you once again, if I were teaching it, you know, I'd write the problem out for you. Okay, so if we're starting with this one, this is 3 units, okay? And remember, he talked about, you can always think about this as 3 copies of 2.5. So it's basically 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5. Okay, so, but our focus right now is showing an area model. So if we're going to take our 3 units, we're going to set up an area model. Okay. And if this, we're going to start with a 3. So if this is 3 here, if this length is 3 units long, we want to break this up into 3 parts. Okay, so this is going to represent 1, this is 1, and this is 1. So 1, 1, and 1 is 3. 1 plus 1 plus 1. So I'm going to start color coding here, actually. Let me go ahead and do this one as 1, this one as 1, and this one as 1. Okay, and now if we're going to move to here, our 2.5. So if this is 2.5 on the width, we have to break this up. Okay, we're going to decompose and we're going to break up our 2, right? So if we have 2 units, we're just going to break it up. And then you have a half that we're going to break up. And do you see how I made that a little smaller? So this is 1, this is 1, and this is a half. Because 1 plus 1 plus a half is 2.5, okay? So break it up just like that, okay? And I really, really, really recommend, boys and girls, that you start color coding, because I love color coding. It makes it super easy for me to go back. So when we're finding the area, we want to show all of these today. You take 1 times 1, and so it's basically taking this 1 and multiplying it by each of these numbers on top. That's why it's super important for you just to break, and you break apart your 3 units into 1 each. Okay, so 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. You go down here. 1 times what? Times your 1 again is 1 again. 1 times 1 is 1. And it seems very routine, like you're doing the same thing over and over again, but there's a reason for that. 1 times 1 is 1. Now you're here at your half. When you take a half and you multiply it by 1, what's your answer? Well, any number when you multiply it by 1 is always that same number. So it's a half. 1/2 times 1 is a half, and 1/2 times 1 is another half. Okay, so let's take this now and add them all together. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You have 6 ones, 6 units, and then you have, I'm going to circle things right here. What's a half plus a half? Well, boys and girls, that's another 1, isn't it? And then you have a half. So what is 6 plus 1? It's 7, and then you have your half. So there you go, boys and girls. Your area on this problem is equal to 7.5 units squared, right? Okay, so if we're looking at that one's the first problem. I'm going to go ahead and turn this around to do the one that we did. We had to do independently. So I'm going to show you that work here. And so I'm going to use the copy, because I do think there is enough room here. So 2.5 units times 1 3/4 units wide. So your 2 units long should go right on top. And it really doesn't matter if you set it up backwards, you're still going to get the same answer. So if you put the 2 on this side, on the length side, that's great. If you mess up and you put it on this side, it's still the same thing, boys and girls. Okay, so let's not worry about making sure it looks exactly like mine, because if you flip the numbers, you're going to get the right answer. you just have to make sure you do it right. So you have your 2 units. We're going to start with our 2 units. I'm going to go ahead and just write this 2 units by 1 3/4, just so you can see it, okay? So if we have our 2, we're going to put our 2 up here, yes? But remember, we're going to break that apart to have 1 and 1, yes? And then we have our 1 3/4. So I'm going to put 1 3/4 here. Then I'm going to decompose this. I'm going to break this apart. You have your 1 here, and you have your 3/4 here. Okay, so now we're going to move to multiplying those areas. What's 1 times 1? It's 1. What's 1 times 1? It's 1. Now you take 3/4 and you multiply it by 1. You're still going to get 3/4. Same thing here. 3/4 times 1 is 3/4. So now we're going to add these two together. 1 plus 1 is 2, right? Now what happens when you add 3/4 plus 3/4? Okay, 3/4 plus 3/4 is what? It's 6/4. So now, what kind of a number is this, boys and girls? If you remember that, this number is a improper fraction. So we need to divide and make this into a mixed number again. So you take 6 and divide it by 4, and you're going to get what? You're going to get, you're going to get 1 2/4. Yes? For those of you who can't mentally do that, you have to take your 6 and divide it by 4. 4 divides into 6. I almost did it again. 4 one time. And you have to subtract 6 minus 4 is your 2. You remember your remainder becomes your numerator, and your denominator is your 4. So you have 1 2/4. Or do you remember that this fraction is not in simplest form? So you have 1 1/2, right? So now we're not quite done yet, because this was the sum. This answer right here is the sum of these two. So we have to take this number here, 1 1/2, and add it to those two. Because remember, we needed to find the area of the entire rectangle. So what is 1 1/2? I'm going to write that right here, plus 2. Well, that's easy. It's 3.5 units squared. 3.5 units squared. So boys and girls, showing your work should look something like this right here. Okay? So make sure you're going ahead and giving me your best here, because you're only asked to do letter D by yourself. Now the next one I want to show you is, let me go ahead and fold this forward because I need more room. And let me move ahead here. Okay? So we have here Rachel. And I know that he went ahead and modeled that for you on your on the video. So please watch that video here. But it's one of the things that I noticed that some of us are not going to do unless we annotate is it says Rachel made a mosaic. And if you don't know what a mosaic is like a mural, like something, if you've ever been to like a Mexican restaurant, those tables, usually those little tiles on the tables, you know how they're very colorful, and it almost makes a pattern. So that's what a mosaic is, okay? And they're all different colors. So these are these little rectangular tiles. Okay, so it says 3 tiles measured at what? It says 3 tiles measured at 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches, right? So we know that 3 of them are this. We know that 6 of them are this. Okay, 6 tiles measured 4 inches by 3 1/4. So we need to find the area of this first, right? The tiles that measure this, and then the tiles that measure this. So let me go ahead and start here. So you have 3.5 by 3 inches, yes? Okay, so you have 3.5 by 3 inches. And how many tiles are there, boys and girls? There were 3. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 right here. Because whatever my area is, I need to multiply it by 3, yes? And then finally you have 6 tiles at 4 inches by 3 1/4 inches, yes? Okay, And so once I get my area here, we're going to multiply by 3. So I'm going to quickly walk you through this as best as I can. So you have 3.5. You see what I'm already doing? This is 1, 2, 3, and there's your half. So this represents 3.5. And it doesn't matter which side it's on. And then right here we want 3, so we're going to break that apart, right? And each of these is 1. So I do recommend that you label those so you don't get confused. So now we're going to just go ahead and do the work. 1 times 1, 1. 1 times 1, 1. Same thing. What's 1 times 1/2? Boys and girls, it's a half. 1 times 1, so you have a lot of 1s here. And then 1 times 1/2 is a half. Another group of that. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 units here, or 9 inches. What's a half plus a half? That's 1 inch. And then you have your other half. So what is 9 plus 1? It's 10, and that's 10.5, right? So how many tiles were there that were this size? We wrote it here so we didn't forget. So 3. So what this is the answer for, it's inches squared, excuse me. This is the answer for 1 tile. So we need to take this and multiply it by 3. Or why not just add this number 3 times? Makes it easy. Right? So 10 plus 10 plus 10 is equal to what? 30. What's 1/2 plus 1/2? That's 1, right? Plus another half. And that's equal to 31 1/2. Okay? So the next thing, we have to still finish those other 6 tiles. So that's easy. I'm going to go ahead and get my area model set up. Okay, so I'm going to separate this into 4 groups here because I'm going to put my 4 up on top, right? So we're just going to label the 1, 1, and 1. I'm going to try to move quickly because I don't want to make this video that long. And then I have my 3 and a 4th, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, and this is going to be your 4th right here, right? So I'm going to just go ahead and label this 1, 1, 1, right? So let's move quickly. 1, 1, 1, and 1. Then this is another row of 1s, another row of 1s, and then you have, what's 1/4 times 1? It's a 4th. What's 1/4 times 1? It's a 4th. And another 4th and another 4th. Yes? Okay, so now let's add them all together. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's rows of 4. 4, 8, 12. 12, yes. But now we need to add a 4th plus a 4th plus a 4th plus a 4th. Well, what is 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4? 4/4. What's 4/4 equal to, everybody? 1 whole. And 12 plus 1 is finally 13 inches squared. So how many tiles do we have, boys and girls, of this specific tile? Well, we reminded ourselves, this is why it's important for you to set yourself up so you can refer to this, 6 of these. So we need to take this and multiply it by 6. What's 3 times 6? It's 18. What's 6 times 1? It's 6, and 6 plus 1 is 7. So we have 78 inches squared. So finally, we read the big question. What was the big question? It said, what is the area of the whole mosaic? Well, we know by looking at all of our work, those 3 tiles measured this, right? And the 6 tiles measured that. And if we just combine those two, 31 plus 78 is 109.5 inches squared. Does that make sense? Where did I get the half? Well, I just added my holes first and then I didn't forget to tack that on to the end. And there's your answer. And don't forget to write your statement out, okay? You would say something like, the whole area is 109 inches squared. Piece of cake, piece of pie. Alrighty, so let me know if you want me to go ahead and show you an image of number 3. I'm gonna go ahead and stop my video right there. I hope you guys got good use of this video, and I'll go ahead and continue to post throughout the week. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.